Hey guys, welcome back to my another video. So on this video we will be working on the follow-up task that we have from our Monstack series. If you followed my last episode, we wrapped up our backend work. Now we're moving on to the React portion. So before even moving on to the React portion, I want to make a small change on our backend because we forgot that part while setting up the backend project. Because on the very first project we did install the course package, but we forgot to add it over there. So we'll start with that, and that is the only change that we have from the backend. And once that is done, we will move on to UI portion and start implementing the login and the register functionality. So by the end of this video, we will have a complete user authentication on our UI, and on the next episode, we will tackle the to-dos related stuff on the UI. So without further ado, let's get started on today's video. So all we need to do on our backend part is just import that course package. I'm just going to do const course equals to require. It's going to come from course. So on the else portion, as soon as we initialize our app from Express, we just need to do app dot use and call that course function, and that's it. So once that is done, I'm gonna run the server on my backend. Run dev, and as you can see, our backend is up and running. So that's it. That's pretty much it for the backend. So I'm gonna minimize this. Now we can move forward with the UI portion. So I created a React application using the Redux template because we will need that while setting up our user. So in order to save time, I already created the app. So the way to create this app is just to you can just do npx create React app, and you will just write the name of app and then dash template and dash Redux. So if you run this script, it will create an application just like this for you. Since I already did this, I won't be doing this now. Alright, now, so what this template allows us to do is it creates like our boilerplate code. So if you go to index.js, all of our store and everything is already set up for us. And you will see, unlike on the regular create React app script, it also creates the folder called app and features. Over here, this is have a counter example, and if you have, what you want to also have is you want to install the DevTool extension for Redux, so that way you will be able to see all of your Redux related states. Now we're gonna do a cleanup a little bit. So on this features where you have the counter, there is a bunch of junk code going on, so we're gonna get rid of this completely. So I want to go to counter, and I will delete the entire counter directory from there. I will keep the features where we will be putting our user related information in this video. And then I want to go to app, and from here I will get rid of this counter reducer completely, and then I can get rid of this import as well. Go to app CSS, we're gonna get rid of this file, and then we're gonna get rid of this logo. Right, let's delete this one as well. Let's go to index.css. I already removed the CSS from there. Now let's go to app. I'm gonna get rid of this entire header and just gonna say Mern 2. Since we don't have these files, we can get rid of this as well. Alright, let's save it. Now you should have a clean app without any state or anything like that. Everything is empty. Alright, now we can get started on this video, or like our UI portion. So we're gonna start before even starting off, I will provide you the high-level overview of what we'll be doing and what we will be using in this episode. We will be using Material UI for some of our components and to style our components, and we're also going to be using styled components, and that's going to come from Material UI itself as well. You can use the regular style components if you don't want to use the Material UI one, but on this video we will be using this one. And as I already mentioned, we're going to be using Redux Toolkit instead of just a regular Redux, because Redux Toolkit is really lightweight and it helps to like set up your project really quickly. Because on the Redux has a bunch of boilerplate code, and I'll show you while we are setting up the Redux store using Toolkit, like how easy it is to do it. Alright, and now I think what we can do now is we're going to start by installing the dependencies first. Let me do Command B so that it goes away. We're going to need to install the dependencies from Material UI. So all you need to do is go to the Material UI docs and go to installation, and over here, depending upon which package manager you use, you can just get those from there and just paste it on your directory. Alright, that should start installing the MUI related dependencies, and let's see what are the other dependencies that we need. Right, while we are waiting for this dependency to get installed, and let's see here, so they are done. So the other packages that we need is Axios to make a call to our backend services. And since we are dealing with React and we're going to have different pages, we're going to have to set up a route within our application. So we're going to need to install the React Router DOM as well. React Router DOM, and what are the other packages? Okay. We will also use Material UI icons. So we want to make sure we install those as well so that we can make a use of those. So the package for that is MUI /icons - material. I believe that should be it. And if I'm not wrong, for this video, I think these dependencies should be good enough. Right now, let's set up a plan on what we will be doing before even writing any sort of other, like business logic. Let me close this terminal, and let's go to app.js. So we're going to start by writing code on app.js file. So we will have 3 different pages. One will be the dashboard, where we will show the list of to-dos. One will be a login route, and the other one would be register route. So let's start by creating components, and then we will set up the routes for those on app.js. I want to go to source, and I will create a folder called components. And inside that components, I'm gonna have a few different components. So I will name it as to new folder. So the first one would be dashboard, and inside that dashboard, I'm gonna create a file called dashboard.js. I'm gonna use RAFCE to create a boilerplate code here. So if you don't know how do I get that, so you just need to go to extension, and if you type React, you should see this React Redux snippet, and once you install this, it will act like that basically. Right, let me go to components again, and I'm gonna need to create a new folder here again, and the other one would be login. And inside that login, I'm going to create a file called login.js. Same thing, RAFCE, that will create an arrow function related functional component for me. And in components, I'm going to create one more folder called register. And inside that register, I'll create a file called register.js. Same thing here. Now that is done, and I will need to create one more folder on components, which we will name it as header, and I will create a file called header.js. So the reason we need header beside all the other three pages is no matter on which route you will be in, you will see some sort of header where the user is able to log in, register, or like log out depending upon the user state. All right, I think that's pretty much it in terms of what we need, at least for now. Now I want to go to app.js. Now we're gonna start writing our routes. So over here, I'm just gonna change this to empty fragment. Get rid of this class name. And as I mentioned, we will be using style components. We won't be worrying about any sort of class names at all. And over here inside the let's import the packages actually first. So the packages that we need from React Router DOM are one is going to be browser router, and we're going to import it as router. One is going to be routes and route, and from they're going to come from React-router-DOM. All right, now let's go to our fragment here, and we're gonna, so basically whatever the routes you're gonna have, this browser router, we're gonna have to wrap everything within this router, otherwise we can't use routes. So I'm just gonna call this router, and inside that router I'm gonna have a div, and inside that div, so before even writing a route for login, register, or the home page, we will know for sure our header is going to be on all of our routes, right? So we don't want to specify any specific routes for those. So that's why I will bring the header component that we just created, and it's going to be a self-closing tag. And now here I will define the specific routes. So in order to create a route, what you need to do first is you're going to have to wrap those routes within the routes that we just imported. Inside here you can put individual routes. So let's say let's write an individual route for our home page, and that's the way to do that is you will call the route that we imported, and inside here you can pass various props. So the first prop that we're interested in is the path itself. So basically what it means is what is the path that you want to make this route to. If you're if we're interested in just like localhost, if there is nothing in there, which is going to be the slash, this means the home route or the default route. So that would be you can specify any sort of components you want to render. If that is the case, then what I can do here is I can just do element equals to curly braces, and you will write like render the component there. I will just do dashboard, and which is going to come from components, and this does not take any props, so I can just render it like that. All right, now what I can do is, now let's have a route for our login. So the path is going to be what is the URL that you want to have, which is this is going to be a /login. Element is going to be login, and just like that. And I'm going to have one more route. This is for the register /register, and the element is going to be register component that we created earlier. Alright, so now we should have our all routes set up. So if I do /login, I will see this login component over here with the header. And if I do /register, register, then as you can see, header is there, and we also have the register component. I think that's pretty much it on what we need to do on app.js file. Now I'm going to go to index.css file just to make a real quick change. It's going to be a small one. I'm going to target everything. So the reason I'm doing this is just to make sure you guys know it is adding a small margin over here. I don't want to have that. That's why I'm going to target everything and just say margin of 0. And for the entire body, I'm just going to have a simple color here. For body, I'm going to say background color of, let me get the hex value, that's going to be FAE 0. Yep, I think that's it. Alright, so we are in app.js. We set up our routes already. Now I think we can start working on the header now. Let's go to home page, which is going to be the dashboard link. Alright, now let's go to components and header, and this is the header file that we have. And just to make sure we like save time and focus on what is the actual logic rather than the styles. I have prepared all of the styles already, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new file in the header and name it as header.style.js. Here I'm gonna copy a bunch of code here and just paste it right there. So these are all of the ready-made styles that I worked on earlier. So this will save us a bunch of time, and we will just focus on what matters the most, basically. Let me close these, close that one as well. We'll keep header as is. So if we go here, as you can see, we're using our style. I'm just going to explain it for this component on what's going on, and for the other components, it's just the same thing. We're just importing the style package from MUI system, because that's what we will be using. We're not going to use the regular CSS, and basically we're using them to create a different components out of those. So let's say right now we are here, styling the div, and we have our own styles, and once that is done, we're just exporting it from here, and later on we will be using those on our actual component. Alright, now I want to go to header.js file. Now I'm going to import a few things over here. So basically the purpose of this header will be to help the user navigate across different pages. Let's say, for example, if we have some sort of button like a login or logout, that will help us, depending upon what kind of state we're in, it will route the user to various pages. Long story short, it is just the helper component for the navigation. Alright, now so we're going to import few packages from React Router DOM here. I'm going to import link and use navigate, and they're going to come from React as router-DOM, and then we will need few icons. We already installed those icons, so if you don't know how to get those icons, we want to go to this website right here, Material UI icons, and you can just search a bunch of icons here. Let's say I'll be using 2 icons over here. I'll just show you how to get those. Let's say if I'm looking for login icons, I'll just go over here, and if I am interested in this icon, I'll just click it here, and it even gives you the how to import those icons. So this is pretty cool. So I'm gonna paste a snippet of code, and I'll explain you what's going on. Let me get that, come back here. So basically I'm importing this person icon. Oh, I need one more icon. So I just went through the MUI docs and grabbed these two icons, and these are all of the import statement where I have already added the styles to, and we will be using those to render our component. And now I think we are all ready to writing the JSX. So on the return statement, instead of regular div, we will be using the style component that we imported here, and that's going to be styled container itself. As you can see, as soon as I said that it updated the style, so this is good. This is good, and I'm going to get rid of this header from here. And here, what we're going to do is we're going to have another style component that we brought. Style, I think it's dashboard div. And so this is going to be the container div as well. And inside that, I'm going to use this link tag that I brought earlier. To link, and inside the link, I will just write something like to-do dashboard. So what this will do is what link does is basically whatever you put it inside the whatever you put inside this link tag, it will act as a anchor tag, and it will help doing smaller navigation. Let's say if you want to navigate the user to home page, all you need to do is just add a to prop to it and equals to, and you can provide the path over here, which is just going to be a slash in this case. So let's see if I was on login route, and if I click this to-do dashboard, it will bring me to the home route. And that's the main purpose of like doing this. And over here, I'm going to add a curly braces so that I can insert a JavaScript in here. Later on, once we start calling our backend services, we're going to have an object called user, but we don't have that access right now. So what I'm going to do is later on we're going to have something like if there is a user, then do some sort of JSX. But for now, since we don't have that one, I'm just going to use the regular false and use the ternary operator. And if it's false, then what we will be using is I have a style component called styled button, and inside that button I'm going to use the icon that I brought. It's going to be logout. I think it's logout icon. Logout icon. Self-closing tag. And in there, I'm going to have a h5 which says logout. And for the else part, what we will have is we're going to have a fragment here. Inside this fragment, I will bring in the styled user container component that we wrote the styles on, and we're gonna have a link tag over here as well. Oh, didn't I import this? I think I forgot to import that logout, so let me do that so that it does not freak out. Alright, so that now error should go away. Excuse me. Now we're in the style user container, right? So over here we're gonna have two things in this container. So one is gonna be the button which says login, and one will say the register. And depending upon the scenarios, we will route the user or navigate the user to login or register page. So let's write the code for, let's write the link for a login. So I'm just going to call the link and as you might have guessed, this link takes two property. So basically, whatever we put it inside the link, this is going to route the user to login. And inside the link, I'm going to have a login icon. It's going to be self-closing. And I'm going to have a h5 tag, which says login. There you go. As you can see, now we have the login icon and the login text over there. I will need to do the same thing for my other container, which is going to be, so we want to have the same thing for our register as well. So I'm going to copy the snippet of code, because the reason I'm copying and pasting is because they are the same thing. We're basically doing the same thing. In this case, we're just routing the user to register, and we just have a different icon and the different text over here. So I don't see the reason to like do the same thing again and again. That's why I wanted to save some time. Now I think we're good here for now. So if we do a real quick test, so if we click on login, we will be like routed to login page. If we click on register, we will be going to register page, and if we click here, we will go to home page. So that's the only purpose of using the header, so that way it makes the navigation easier. All right, now we are done with our header. Now let's move on to register actually. And we're gonna start by creating the form for register. And we have quite a bit of style. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna create a new file called register.style.js. And I'm gonna bring the styles that I've already written, just paste it right there, and go to register.js file. Right, over here we're going to create a simple form where it will allow the user to basically add all of the fields, and from there, as soon as the user clicks on submit button, we will make a call to our service. So let me bring a few things here from React. I'm going to need a use state, use effect, and I'm going to need a few things from Material UI as well. Let me copy that code and bring it here. Just like that. I'm bringing this person icon, and these are all of the components that I created on this style component file. We will need those. And this snack bar component I'm grabbing from Material UI as well. So this is going to be quite handy whenever we try to log in, and if there is something wrong with our call, then we will display the proper error message to the user. And this close icon we will be using on the snack bar component. So if for some reason that snack bar doesn't go away, we can manually click it and close it. And we will need our icon button, and the icon button is needed to wrap this close icon on the snack bar, and the button we will be using it for like submitting the form. And I think that should be it. Now let's create some state. Actually, let's create a state for the form data. So I'm gonna create a state called register data, and set register data equals to use state. So I'm going to create an object from here. If you don't like this approach, and if you want to do it like separately, you can do that. But the only purpose of this state is to store name, email, password, and the second password, which is going to be the confirmed password entered by user. I find it, like this is going to be the simpler or the easier way to do it, because otherwise you're going to have to create 4 different states to handle those. Alright, so let's initialize our state. Our object is going to contain the name field. It's going to start with empty string, and it's going to have email, just like that, password. It's going to be empty string as well, and I'm going to say confirmed password is equal to empty string as well. So that should take care of all of our form data on this component. Now what I'm going to do is so that in order to it's going to be easier for me to rather than getting access to these individual data whenever I'm setting the input field, I'm going to destructure those so that I can extract them individually. Just going to say name, email, password, and confirmed password, and they're gonna come from register data itself. Let me close this. Now where we are now, so we destructured the items. Now I think we can I think we should be good to start working on our JSX now. I'm going to use, instead of this div, I'm going to use a fragment, and let's get rid of that. And over here I'm going to go to register page so that we can see our changes, and we will see our error if there are any. So I'm going to start by adding the container. It's going to be style container if I'm not wrong. So this already has the basic styles to it. And inside that style container, I'm going to have a header. So basically that header will say that will render the icon based upon our use case. So what do I mean by that is, let's say we're going to use like bunch of code on login and the register, and most of them are going to be similar. So there will be some sort of differences, and one will be the header. Let's say if you're on the login page, you will see something like please log in, and if you're on register page, you will say like please create an account. So that's what we are doing on the header. So I'm going to use the style form, not form container, I think it's form header, and we're going to use that. And inside that there's going to be a h1 tag. Inside that h1 tag, we're going to render the person icon that we have imported. Alright, as you can see, that icon is already there. Now this will just say register. Alright, so we have a basic setup here for our header. And underneath this h1 tag, I'm going to have a p tag, and it will say please create an account. Alright, we have that one. Now we are done with form header, and right underneath this style form header, I'm gonna render another style component, which is going to be styled and form container. Within this, I'm gonna create a form tag. Oops, not for, it should be form. It's gonna have a function called onSubmit, and we will say that submit data. Right now it's gonna error out because we don't have that. I'm gonna go here. It's gonna say const. What do I name it? Submit data equals to, it will take event, and just for now we will just say e.prevent default so that it does not refresh the browser every time we submit the page. Let me close this. Alright, now we're gonna have quite a bit of things inside our form. So I have created a container for each individual input fields that we're gonna have, and so let's render those. Style input container, and inside that I'm gonna have an input field with a self-closing tag, and it takes bunch of props. So the first prop is gonna be type. So this is for our name field. It's gonna be a text. And the second prop is going to be ID. It's going to be a name as well. Third prop is going to be value. Oh, did I say name? Oh, we're going to have to tell a name too, because later on, since we're using the object to manage our state, we're going to need this information. And we're going to have a value property, which is going to be a name. And after the value, we're gonna have a placeholder text. It's gonna say enter your name, and there is an onChange function that we need to run, which is gonna say handle change. Right now it's gonna error out because we don't have that handle change function. So let's go ahead and create that. Let's say const handle change equals to, let's just keep it as an empty function for now. Alright, so our name input field is done, but we can't type here anything, and the reason is we haven't handled our handle change function. So we will do that later on. So right after this styled input container, I'm gonna render another style input container here. So this is gonna styled input container. So this is gonna deal with our input field for email. Say input. It's gonna have a type of email. The reason I'm not doing a type of text is we're not doing a form validation over here, but as soon as we do type of email, it will do some sort of, like the regular validation. For example, if you forgot to include @ on your email field, it will, like give you an error saying, like you need to have that field, so which is cool. I'm gonna have an ID of email as well. And I'm gonna have a name of email. I'm gonna have a value of email that's it's coming from the state itself. I'm gonna have a placeholder of something like enter your email, and I'm gonna have an onChange function, and we are pointing the to, oops, I didn't mean to do that, handle change as well. It's gonna point to the same function. I will show you guys in a second. We're gonna use the same function for password and confirm password as well, and the reason we're using the same handle change is because we are storing everything on the same object. Alright, it's going to be the same thing for password and confirmed password too. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the code and just put it here. So this is going to be for password. We're doing the same exact thing. Excuse me. Now let me grab the code for confirmed password as well. Styled container. So this is going to be for the confirmed password. So now we have all of our input fields here. So now once we are done, with our input field, right? Now we're gonna have to bring in our button, because there should be a button to submit the form, right? So I have already created the style component for our button container. So the name is style button container. So what did I do there? Just did some random stuff here. styled button container. Okay. And inside here, I'm gonna bring in the button that did I import the material UI button here? Yeah, I have. So I'm gonna use this material UI button that I imported here. So just like that. And inside that button, we will say something like submit. Right, why it's not showing the button? Okay, there you go. Yeah, it was taking a lot of time. I don't know why. And this button will take like a few props as well. It's gonna say variant of contained, and then we're gonna say color should be primary, and then type is gonna be submit. So the reason why I did a type of submit is since it's wrapped inside the form, that way as soon as we click this button, we don't have to write a separate on-click function. So as soon as we click on this button, this submit data like function will get triggered. So that's the reason I wrote as the type of submit. You could add your own on-click handler and handle it that way, but I find it this way it's much simpler and the easier way to do it. And there's going to be one more property here, which is going to be a disabled property. So the purpose of that is, let's say if the user hasn't typed, is missing any of this field, then we will do, based on the validation here, we will make this button disabled so that user can't click it if any of the field is missing here. So the way to do that is, I'm just going to say disabled equals to, and inside the curly braces, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna use those states, right? All of our states, which are name, email, password, and confirmed password. So if the name is an empty string, or email is empty string, or password is empty string, or confirmed password is an empty string, then we want the button to be disabled. As you can see, it's already disabled, so user can't click it if any of the fields are missing. Alright, so I think we are done with that button too, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, later on we're gonna add a snack bar here, but we don't need to worry about it right now. I'm just more interested in setting up the code. Right now, let's do something. Like right now we can't even type anything, right? So let's fix that one. So the way to fix that is we want to go to we're handling this on change here, right, on the handle change function. It will take an event. Over here, we will set up our basically this register data as soon as the user types something on this text fields. The way to do that is I'm just going to call the setter function from here to make a change to our state, and we're going to pass a function over here saying something like previous state. Pass an arrow function. Since we are making the change to our object, we cannot just do like curly braces here. We're gonna have to use the parentheses and the curly braces here. So now what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use a spread operator, just like this, and say previous state. What it says is whatever you have on the previous state, just grab everything from there. And now also what you need to do is we will be providing key value pairs, because over here on our object we have a key value pairs, right? So key is name and the value is empty string in this case. So we can grab the key from the event itself. So we're going to use an array here. We're going to do e.target.name. If we come back here on our input field, each input field has a name property to it. That's what we are extracting. So that name will give each input field's name, and we're going to map those to e.target.value, which would be whatever the user has typed on the input field. Now, if I'm not wrong, now we should be able to type here. Yep. And if we submit it, as you can see, it says there is an email address, like @ missing on the email address. So that is cool. All right, now I think this is done too. And we don't need to worry about the submit form data. We can deal with it later on. Now, what I will do now is I'm gonna see if I go to login, it just has a login right now, right? So let's since the code is going to be pretty much similar, we will grab the same code to our login as well. So I'm just going to copy the entire file from register, go back to login, and paste it. The first thing that we need to do is let's go to it will say not register, login, and then default is going to be a login as well. And we're gonna have to fix the import for this. It's gonna go /register/register.style. So another cool thing about this style component is we are able to make a use of those same style component on the register file too. Oh, not the register file, the login file too. Now if I go to login, it still says register, so we will start fixing those. And in terms of the form data, for the login, we don't need name field, we can get rid of those. And we don't need confirmed password because we just need email and password for our login form. And I'm gonna get rid of this name from here. Get rid of this confirmed password. Now I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna say instead of register, I will say login. And I'm rendering person icon over here, but I need a login icon. So let me grab the import for that one. I think I had use it over here. Yep, let me grab this because we will use that one instead of this person icon. I can get rid of that import, copy this, and instead of the person icon, it's gonna say login icon. Alright, so now we did that. Now since we don't need this name related input field, we can get rid of this entire container. And we do need an email, we do need password, but we don't need confirmed password. Let me get rid of this container as well. And now in terms of this disable prop, since we don't have the name field, we can get rid of this from here. And since we don't have this confirmed password field, we can get rid of this as well. As soon as I save it, I think that should be it for our login function too. And every other thing should be like the same. Don't worry about all of these warnings. We're gonna fix those later on. So now if we go to let's keep track of the progress what we have. Oh, it still says create an account, so we need to fix that text as well. I can say something like please log in to your account. Yep, now that it's changed. So now we have complete navigation from our header. So if I go to login, it will redirect me to login. If I go to register, it will redirect me to register page. And if I go to click this to-do dashboard, it will direct me to the dashboard, but we don't have anything on the dashboard. That's going to be on the next video where we will start fetching our to-dos. But now I think we're in the good spot to start working on our Redux actually. Before even starting working on the Redux, I'm gonna do a quick commit git add all setup components for login and register. All right. Now we will be moving towards our setting up our actually, hold on, let me think about it. So we did everything for login and register, and now, yeah, I think we should start setting up the Redux store so that we can start consuming this form data and start making our calls to our backend. So inside the features, since you have two folders related to Redux, right? One is going to be app, where you have the store, and the other one is feature. So this is where we implement all of our reducer and actions. On Redux Toolkit, there is a concept called slice. So each slice is going to be, let's say if you're storing information regarding user, that file would be called something like a user slice. Once you complete all of your reducer and action, you will bring those on the store file here, and you will just put your reducer over here. Now let's start creating our slice. So inside the feature, I'm going to create a folder called Authentication, and inside that authentication folder, I'm going to create a file called user_slice.js. All right, over here, I'm going to need a couple of functions from Redux Toolkit. I'm going to import create slice and create async thunk from, it's going to come from at Redux.js Toolkit. All right, let me close this, and over here we will start creating all of our reducers, right, to say manage our user state. So on Redux Toolkit, the way to create a slice is you will do something like export const. Since we're creating a user slice, let me close this and this one as well. Since we're creating the user slice, right, over here we will be using this create slice function to create a slice for our user. So I'm just going to say something like user slice equals to create slice, and you can pass an object in here, and the first property that we will be passing is the name itself. So I'm just going to say it as user, and you can pass the initial state. So for our initial state, what do I want to have? So I'm going to create a object called initial state. Right now it's going to complain, it's not saying it's not defined, but we're going to create that right now. Say const initial state equals to, it's going to be an object. So there are a few things that I'm going to have on my initial state. I'm going to have a user itself, and then which is going to be a null is error, it's going to be false is success, it's going to be a false as well, is loading, it's going to be false, message, it's going to be a empty string. Okay, so what are these fields? So the user is going to be whatever the response that we get from our backend services. So as if you remember, whenever we log in or register, we get the user information back, right, on the response, which is coming from our database itself. And also we will have our JSON web token, which we need later on to fetch all of our to-dos. So that's what, like all of the things we will be having on the user. So this is error property. Since we will be using Redux to fetch our data from our API too, we will need this error property so that we can display some sort of error on the snack bar somewhere over here later on in the video. Is success refers to like whether our API call has been successfully completed or not, and is loading property is needed if you want to display some sort of spinner to show it in the UI for the user to say, all right, something is going on the background, you have to wait for some time. And this message is coming from the like our backend itself. Whenever there is some sort of error, then if you remember, we used to send the JSON with the property message in there saying, let's say if you are using the email address that's already being used, we say that something like the email already exists, right? Like that's what we will be using, and we'll use that information to display some sort of toast or like material UI snack bar to render the message. So that is what we have on our initial state. So now inside the same create slice function, we're gonna bring in, we're gonna write some reducers. It's going to be a object, and over here you can pass various reducers that you want to have. Let's say, I want to have a reducer which will set all of the state to the default state. I can write a function, something like reset. It's gonna be a function which takes the state, and over here from the state I can grab all of our initial state. I can just say state dot is loading equal to false, state dot is success equals to false, state dot is error equals to false as well, and state dot message equals to empty string. So this is what this reset function does. So whenever we do some sort of dispatch later on, and if we call this action, which is the reset, it will just default our values to the initial state. And if you're used to using the Redux thunk so what we will need, the reason I'm saying that is now, since we're done with our reducer, now how we will deal with the asynchronous action within our Redux toolkit. The way to do that is we will do that through extra reducers. So right after this curly brace, there's a property called extra reducers, and this is where we will put all of our extra reducers. So we don't need to worry about it or everything for now. Let's just keep it as empty for now. Once we set up our services, we will come back here. All right, now I think we are ready to export this. So I'm going to do export default. Since I named this as a user slice, the way to export it, you can just export the user slice. You're going to have to export the reducers from here. So that will export the reducer. And now the way to export your action, like this is the action, right? Reset action. What you need to do is to export const, create an object, and put your action here. It's going to be reset equals to user slice dot actions. Alright, so now we should have this exported from here. The only thing left to do is we're going to go back to the file explorer and go to underneath the app. There is a store.js file, right? we will bring the reducer that we created just now over here and add it inside this reducer object. All right, now let's import that. I'm going to import user reducer from, going to be dot slash features slash authentication slash user slice. And the way to add this as the reducer in our store is just provide the key, which is going to be a user, and provide the reducer that we just inputted. It's going to be user reducer. If we save it, let's inspect and let's see the dev tool actually. All right, looks like it worked. So now over here, it is defaulting to initial state. So our store setup is good. Our user is null, and all of the other fields are defaulting to whatever we put it over here. So that is good. Okay, guys, let me hydrate myself. Now, since this store setup is done, I think we can move on now to work on our asynchronous action within our Redux. So we imported this create async thunk function, right? Now we're going to make a use of that so that we can create a API call from our store, and we can add those data on our global state as soon as that is done. Since we're not going to be using HTTP cookies or anything, like to manage the session from our backend, what we're going to also have to do is we're going to have to add the data from our user to the local storage. So since we're setting up the user as null, so every time we refresh the page, it will set up the user as null no matter what. But what we want to have is if there is already data on the store or in the local storage, let me go here and let me clear this actually so that we will get the clean version. I want to have that instead of being null, I want to get the data from the user and from the local storage if there is any. So the way to do that is I'm just going to say const user equals to, I'm going to use json.parse method because we would need to pass the stringified text from the local storage, because you're going to have to, whenever you add something to the local storage, you're going to have to stringify those, and if you're trying to access that, you're going to have to parse that string. I can just call the local storage dot get item, and whenever we add the data to the local storage, we're going to add it with the key called user. So that's what we are looking for. And here, instead of just doing null, what I'm going to do is if there is a user, then use the user, else null. I'm just using ternary operators so that over here, if the data is coming from the user, from the local storage, if there is a data on the local storage, use that one, else don't use the null value. And you can even make it shorter than this. You can get rid of this completely. And instead of one question mark, if you do two, then what it will do is if there is a user, then it will use the user, otherwise it will use the null. So that is a little bit shorter way to do it. All right, now what we're going to do is since we're going to make a call here, I'm going to have to create a folder on. Now let's create a folder so that we can manage our service calls. You can you do it in the like in the same file, but I like to have a cleaner code. So what I like to do is on your source folder, create a folder called services, and inside the services I'm going to create a file called auth service.js. Over here we're going to need Axios first. So did I install Axios? Yes, I did. Okay, so I'm going to import the Axios from Axios, and I also need a base URL so that I know, where, so that our service will know, like where to make a call. So I'm going to declare a constant called base underscore URL, and it's gonna go to http://localhost 3005. Is our backend running on 3005? Let's see. Yep, our backend is running on 3005. Okay, that is good. So now this will be our base URL. Now over here we're going to create a function called register, and we're going to call that on our user slice every time we do some sort of dispatch. So now let's create the register function here. So register equals to, it's going to be a asynchronous function, and it's going to take a user data as a argument, because if you remember from our services, we do need, all of these fields, right, while registering the user. And we're going to use an arrow function, and here I'm just going to say const response equals to, I'm going to use await, and I'm going to use the Axios to use the post method. So let me open the postman if you guys forgot. Let's go to register. We were using HTTP post method here, right? So that's what we are doing it right here. Earlier, when we didn't have our front-end setup, we used to use the postman to make a request, but now we will use Axios to make the request. I'm going to do Axios dot, over here you can pass the certain HTTP method that you want to do. Right now I'm interested in post. I'll just do post, and it takes a few arguments. The first argument is going to be the request URL itself. I'm going to use a string template over here so that I can insert JavaScript variables or constants. I'm going to say base URL. So that is going to be the base URL over here. But if you look at the postman on your right hand side, we already have this as a base URL. Now all we need is this bit of URL over there. Now I can do slash right there. So now it will, every time the Axios will run this every time we run this register function, Axios will post the request to this 3005 base URL and on this register endpoint, so that it will match exactly where we are trying to hit. And if you're trying to post the data, Axios also provides you to handle your body part, like we did this. We send this field over here. All we need to do is, since we already have the user data from the form, we just need to pass that same data, and it will get the response. And once this is done, once the Axios is done sending the request and receiving the response back, we will do a quick check to see if we have the data or not on the response. And whenever you make a request with Axios, there is a property called data. We will check that one. Now if there is a data on the response, what we will be doing is we will call a local storage function and call the function called setItem. And here we will set up the user, and if you remember here, we used json.parse while we were accessing the item. Now, before adding the item, we need to run json.stringify so that we stringify all of the data. I'm going to call json.stringify. I'm going to do response.data. Alright, now once that is done, every time we run this register function, it's going to add the data to the local storage. Now we can just simply return response.data. I think I can minimize this postman now. Alright, now we have our register function. Now I'm going to create a simple object here. Auth equals const auth service equals to, it's going to be an object, and I'll just pass this register function here. And over here I will do the default export default auth service. So that way, everywhere, if we import this auth service, we will have access to this register function. And if I'm not wrong, I think that should be it for our service setup. I guess we'll find it out later on. If we mess up something, we can come back. Now we're going to go back to the user slice again, and here bring that auth service that we just created. I'm going to import auth service from services. Now we will write a function to do the registration work. So I'll just add a comment here, registering the user. Alright, so now we're gonna make a use of this create async thunk function, so that we know, like we are making a asynchronous request over here. So the way to do that is I'm just going to say export const register equals to, call that function create async thunk, and inside the parentheses it takes a few arguments. The first argument would be auth/register. It doesn't matter what you put over here. And now the second one is going to be a function, and which is going to be a asynchronous function, async. And there are quite a bit of parameters that you can pass over here. So right now we're going to pass user, and there is a property called thunk API. So that will help us to get various methods. So that's why we are using that. It's going to be an arrow function. Let's close this one. Right over here, I'm going to have a try catch block so that we can handle our errors. Just to try and catch. Inside the try catch, all we will be doing is we will just be calling this auth service dot register function on our try, and we will return that. Return, I'm going to do await auth service dot register, but as you remember, register is a function that takes the user data, so we will need to provide the user data over here, and which will come from the user itself. Alright, now on the catch, we will get the message from the from our response, from our backend. So first we will need to check, where do we have that error message. So I'm gonna grab a snippet of code here. Okay, over here, what I'm doing is, if there is any error, and I'm declaring a constant called message, and I'm trying to extract the error message. Basically, it might be in various different places. That's why I have this and or operators over here. It might be an error.message. It might be an error.response.data, or error.response.data.message, or error.message itself. Or if nothing is there, we can just simply use error.toString. We're just trying to get an error message from various different places, depending upon where it might be. That's it. And at the end over here, we're going to return. As you remember, we had this argument, right, thunk API. So the reason we brought this one up was we can reject the promise from here. So we can just do thunk API, and we can use the function called reject with value. And for the value, I'm just gonna provide the message that we just extracted. Alright, now I think if I'm not wrong, I think we are done with our register too. Register, yep, our this create async thunk register should be good as well. Now we already have a reducer for reset, right? But and also we need to create a reducer for this register as well. So we can't add this on the regular reducer because this is a asynchronous action. The way to do that is on the extra reducer over here. On the extra reducer over here, as a function, it takes a argument called builder, and inside here you can add various cases. I'm gonna add case, and so it takes off a few arguments. So I can call that register that I just created earlier. Just gonna say register dot and pending. So Redux Toolkit provides various functions depending on if you're dealing with the asynchronous action like pending, fulfilled, and rejected. And they are going to be really useful to manage our state. Let's say if the register dot, if we are running into register dot pending, then what are we going to do? As a second argument, you can pass a function called state, which takes the state, and if that is the case, then we will say state dot is loading equals to true. What is going on here? Okay, extra reducer, it takes a builder. Oh, I forgot to add. So there, I used that builder, but I didn't add it. So this is how it look like. All right, now just to make it cleaner, I'm just gonna do it here. Now I'm gonna add one more case. You can chain up the cases here. Actually, that's what we are doing now. Since we dealt with pending, now we're gonna deal with register dot fulfilled, which is gonna be once our promise is resolved. I'm gonna do register dot fulfilled. If there is a fulfilled, then we can't just rely on state. We're gonna have to bring the action as well because we're gonna have to deal with the data. And we can use arrow function here. And inside here, we're gonna have to deal with quite a bit of things here. I'm just gonna say state dot is loading is gonna be false, meaning we already faced the data. State dot is success is going to be true if the promise is resolved. State dot user, because if we have a user state over here as well, right, if you remember. And if you also remember from our backend tutorial, we are sending the various user related data from our service, and which is going to come from action dot payload. So over here, payload is the data that we're getting back from the services. Okay, now we have our pending state, fulfilled state. Now we're gonna add a case for our rejected case. Let's say register dot rejected, comma, and it's gonna have a state and action as well, and it's gonna be a arrow function over here for the rejected case. We're gonna say state dot is loading is gonna be false. State dot is error, this is gonna be true. State dot message is equal to action dot payload. This is the error message that we'll be getting from the data endpoints. State dot user is equal to null. The reason we are doing it null is because we couldn't authenticate the user. All right, our extra reducers for our register should be good as well, if I'm not wrong. Yep, I think yeah, I think we should be good now. I think we're in the point to start making API call on our register. So what I'm going to do now is we are back on register. Now we are going to handle all of our register related data on the submit data function, right? But we're going to have to bring a few things before we start using our before start calling our services. Okay, I'm going to go here and I'm going to bring a few things from React Redux first. I'm going to bring use dispatch and use selector from React Redux. So these are going to be quite handy to deal with the Redux related stuff. And from React Router DOM, I'm going to bring use navigate, import use navigate from React Router DOM so that we can redirect the user to the home page. And I'm going to have to bring the reducers that we created. So I'm going to bring register, comma, reset from dot slash should be in features slash authentication slash user slash. Okay, now we have those infos. We will initialize those. I'm gonna initialize dispatch equals to use dispatch. So if you don't know what use dispatch does, all it does is it helps to create run certain actions within our store. And we're going to use navigate, and it's going to come from use navigate so that we can redirect the users. And also we're going to make a use of the use selector over here. The reason we use use selector is used to access all of these like data from our Redux store. So the way to use that is I'm going to do const. I'm going to use destructure a few things here, but I'm going to show you how to initialize the use selector. You just call a use selector just like that, and it takes a function with the argument of state. And over here, all you need to do is do state dot whatever the things that you're interested in. So right now over here, if we go to our Redux store right on the dev tool, we have a user here. So if I do state dot user, I have access to all of the user related info over here. So if you had something like over here, user and to-dos, then if you do state.todos, then you will get to our to-dos related data. Over here, I'm interested in user, and then is error, is success, and message, which is the error message. Those are the things that we will be using. All right, now let's wrap up our submit data function here. Now we're just doing prevent default here. Let's just do quick validation check before calling our endpoint. I'm going to do password is not equal to confirmed password, meaning that if the user does not enter the same password on this two password field, then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna dispatch an action. I'm gonna call that dispatch and call the reset function to reset our state. That's all we're gonna do. You can like display something on the UI if a user does that, but for this case we're just gonna reset the state. And if everything is good, then we're gonna fall into this else block here. I'm gonna grab the user data. I'm just gonna create a new object with all of our state in it. That's gonna be name, email, and password. So this user data, it's gonna mimic the thing that we did right here, which is gonna be name, email, and password on Postman. That's all we are doing. Now, in order to call our service, as we created this register, right? That's what we created here. So now we're gonna have to call this reducer, and the way to call it is just use the dispatch function. Here I'm just gonna do dispatch and call register, and it takes an argument, and over there we're just gonna pass the user data. All right, now that should make an API call for us. Now there is one more thing that we need to do before making a call. Let's put this use effect right here. I'm going to add a use effect hook. So this will be responsible for handling various error related states and navigation for us. Alright, now let's not worry about error for now. Let's just do the case for, I'm gonna get the dependencies for this one. And here, if there is success or there is a user, then what we will be doing is we will navigate the user to home page, which is going to be the dashboard. I think that's it in terms of what we need here, if I'm not wrong. We get the user data, we dispatch the register action with this particular data, and as soon as there is a user change, meaning as soon as we dispatch and if we get the user back, this use selector will help to get all of these data back. And as soon as there's something is changed, it should navigate the user to home page. Yep, that should work if I'm not wrong. Let me clear this and let's test it out. Let's see if we can register the user. Let's make sure our backend is working. Yeah, our backend is running, so we should be good over there. All right, let's add a name, JavaScript programmer. Enter your email, javascript at gmail.com. We want to watch the state as well. Everything is defaulted, okay? And I'm just gonna do Java 1 2 3 1 2 3. Let's try to log in. All right, looks like it worked. As you can see, we called this register endpoint and we got the data back, including our token, and we got the 201 created response back. And if we go to Redux now, inside the user object, there is a data called user field in there, and it has all of the fields that we need. Now, since as soon as the user is created, right, if I go to my services right here, we set the user on our local storage too. So if I go to application, as you can see, it created the new user over here. Now, it doesn't matter. Now, if I refresh the app, my data is still going to be there because we are grabbing the data from local storage, and that happens right here. Yep, now we should be good on the local storage related stuff. Not local storage, I mean register related stuff. Now what we want to do is on the register or the header, let's add a, since as soon as we log in, right, if there is a user that we don't want to show the login and register page here, let's fix that one, because we want to have this I think we created this logout icon here. We want to have that one. So we're going to go to header. Before this, let me do a quick git commit. Finished. So register user. Okay, let me close this. Now I'm gonna go to header, and inside the header I'm gonna have to bring so I already have use navigate, and I'm gonna have to bring a few things from Redux. I'm gonna bring use dispatch and use selector. We will need that. We need dispatch to reset our state, and we will need use selector to get the access to our user. Okay, by the way, so if you are still confused what's going on, what we're doing on the header again is we're trying to make sure we hide these two buttons and we only show this logout action, and as soon as that is done we will perform the logout related action over here. That's what we are doing. So over here I'm gonna do const navigate equals to use navigate, and here I'm gonna create a dispatch equals to use dispatch, and I'm gonna need a selector as well. So to const, I'm gonna destructure it, use selector, and from state I'm interested in state.user, and the only thing that I'm going to destructure over here is user itself. Alright, no, I think that's it. So over here where we had, okay, I think it was right here, right, where we had this style button. Basically we just added this false over here, but instead of false now we're gonna do user here. So what we are doing here is if there is a user on the state, then use this logout thing. If there is not a user, then you will use something like, like those two buttons for login and registration. So if I refresh this again, I will get this logout thing here. But right now, if I click on this logout, it doesn't do anything because we haven't hooked up our logout functionality. Now let's do that. I'm gonna do on click to handle logout. Oops. Handle logout. I'm gonna come here, const, and for our handle logout, let's paste that in there. It's going to be an arrow function as well. Okay, this is the setup that we have. Hold on, should we rather do it through state itself? Because we could just all we need to do here is we just need to clear the local storage and the state related data. So I'm thinking whether we should do it right here or do it on the user slice. Since we have bunch of things on user slice, let's just do it on user slice. So you want to go to the user slice again, and over here we're going to add a function for logout. Over here we created for the user register, right? Now over here let's add it for logging out the user. I'm just gonna do export const logout equals to create async thunk, and I'm gonna say auth / logout. It's gonna be the name, async function. It doesn't have any arguments. Over here we're just gonna do await auth service dot logout, and if you remember on our auth service there is nothing called logout, so we're gonna have to create that one. So we're gonna go to auth service, and from here I'm just gonna paste that code in there, and it's going to be an arrow function. All we are doing here is just local storage dot remove item, and you can pass a key of the item, like what kind of item that you're trying to remove. Since we added the data as the user key, we can remove the data as the user key. Alright, now let's add this inside this object so that we can have access right here. So now all we need to do is we're going to go to our extra reducers again, which is going to be somewhere over here. Come back here, add one more case, add case, call the name of the function dot fulfilled, and have a function with the argument as state, and inside that state do state dot user equals to null. What this will do, right, did I mess up anything here? What's going on? Hold on. I'm trying to find out what did I do wrong here. This is case register.rejected, logout.rejected, not fulfill, state. It works. Oh wow, now it worked. I don't know, I didn't know what was going on. Maybe my VS Code was just freaking out. Yep, we just added a new case, like with the logout as fulfilled, and what this will do is this will take care of removing the item from local storage, and this will take care of removing the item from our Redux store. Alright, now we can go back to our header so that we can handle the logout functionality. Here, I'm going to have to bring those reducers that I just created. I'm going to import logout reset from dot slash feature slash authentication slash user slice. Okay, inside the handle logout, I'm going to dispatch a action dispatch, and here I'm just going to do logout. That will call that reducer, and we're going to have to call the dispatch and reset so that it resets all of our state, and we're going to have to navigate the user to slash login, because there's nothing like interesting thing that is going on the to-do dashboard. That's why I think we would rather be better off like redirecting the user to login route, which will show the form data. All right, let's try it out. Now if I click logout, all right, I think it did work, right? Our user state is null and everything. Now if I go to application, there's nothing called user in there. That is cool. Now let's log in. Oh, we haven't added the code for login, huh? Now we're gonna have to work on the login functionality now. All right, now let's go to where we are right now. We're at header. Now we're gonna go to login.js. We're gonna have to deal with the login functionality right here, but before even doing that, we're gonna have to set up our auth service and our slice over here before logging in. Log in the user. Here I'm going to create a reducer first. All right, so we did the register. Now we're going to create a login. And login is going to be quite similar to register as well. It's going to do export const login equals to create async thunk. Here I'm just going to say auth slash login, and here I'm going to do async. It's going to take a user and thunk API. You know what? Let me grab this code actually, because I'm too lazy to type, because I think this video is gonna get really long. Let's save some time. Instead of register, it's gonna say login, and here also it's gonna say login, because a lot of things are gonna be similar. Here it's gonna say login. I think that's it. Now we're gonna go to auth service file. Login. Yep, I think that should be it. Yep. Now we're gonna go to auth service, and let's create a function. Const login equals to, it's gonna be async function. It's gonna take the user data as well. And if I go here, and then I'm gonna say const response equals to, oh wait, we're gonna use Axios again. So let's bring our old friend Postman here, because we have a slight difference on the route. We know that, like we're gonna use the post method. So I'm gonna do axios.post, and it takes the base URL. I'm gonna use the template string so that I can insert my base URL in here. Base underscore URL. But on our register, it was rest/user/register. But on our login, it's rest/user/login. So we're gonna need to copy that. Do slash, just like that. And the other thing that we need to pass is the form data itself, and which is gonna be user data. So once that is done, we should get the response back. Now, like we did for the register, I think I can just simply copy this. I'm just going to copy that thing. If there is a response.data, we are setting up the local storage and returning the response.data. Now at the end, all we need to do is come here and just add that as a part of login. Now, since we already created this function, now we can add a case. Not a case, we're gonna have 3 cases like we did for the register, right? Alright, so it's gonna be the same one. So I'm just gonna copy this 3 things from here and go here and just paste it right there. But now, so these make sure so this is the register, this is the register, this is the register. Over here, we are right here. Now this is going to be a login. Select that one, and that one. Let's say login. And do we need to change anything else? If I'm not wrong, I don't think so, because all of the other things will be the same regarding the changing the states. Alright, I think we should be good here. Now we're gonna go to login.js, and we're gonna go to function. Where did I go? Login.js over here, right after the prevent default. Alright, we're gonna have to bring few things from Redux and all of our reducer over here. I'm gonna use dispatch again. Like I said, we're doing the same thing again and again. From React as Redux, and I'm gonna bring use navigate from React Router DOM, and we're gonna have to bring reducers, our login and the reset reducer. Import login, and we also need reset. from there. All right, now let's initialize those things, this dispatch, selector, and the navigate. Is equals navigate equals to use navigate, and equals dispatch equals to use dispatch const. We're gonna need to bring few things from our use selector, which is gonna come from our user slice. As we know, it takes state, and we are interested in state.user. All right, the things that we need is, I'm just gonna copy a snippet, just like that. We're extracting user is error, is success, and message from here. Right now we can move on to, I think let's just submit the form data first, and then we're gonna write the use effect hook like we did for the earlier example. On submit data, since I think it might complain, so let me grab this thing here, put it right there. On the submit data function on the login.js file, we're gonna create an object called user data, and it's gonna consist of this. Since this is for login, it's just gonna have email and password. Let's save that one. The only thing that we need to do to call our service is just call this dispatch and call the login function that we created, and with the user data. All right, that should take care of our service call. But we do need our use effect hook as soon as we call the service, so that we can route the user to dashboard. Just gonna call the use effect. Let's get rid of this. With this, I'm gonna go to register and grab all of these dependencies. Back here, and over here, I'm just gonna do the same thing. If there is success or the user, then let's redirect the user to the default page, which is going to be the dashboard page, right? Yep, I think we're done here too. What is it? Authority is not defined. But that was just a regular error. Okay. All right, we're doing the same thing here. Just to do a quick recap, we're getting the user data, dispatching to our login function that we have right here. Where did it go? Right here. And from here on the try block, we're calling the login function from our auth service, which does the exact same thing. It's just, like it has a different endpoint basically. All right, let's test it out. So if you remember from our backend example, we had a user called John. Let's try to log in with John's account. So I'm just going to add John's email, john@gmail.com. Let's look at the network log too. And for password, it's John123. Let's log in. Yep, there you go. We got the 200 back with the John's info in it on the network. And if we go to Redux, we can see there is our John's information. So if we refresh, it will still work, but if we log out, it will get rid of everything from there. So let me log in again. Oh, let's not log in Excel. Now I want to do something related to, let's see, over here, right? So let's add this random email, and let's add this random password. Let's submit this. We got 400 back. As the like it was a success or there wasn't a user, we couldn't navigate the user to home page, but we don't have any sort of meaningful information on the UI, and that is bad. And what we want to have now is we want to display some sort of error to the user, saying like something is wrong, basically. In order to do that, I'm gonna have to bring a. Did I import a snack bar? Oh yeah, I did. So I'm gonna make a use of the snack bar. So it is just a basic toast, which displays like a informational message for the user. So I'm gonna use that one. But before even using that, I'm gonna need a few state. So I'm gonna say const open snack bar set open snack bar to use state. It's gonna start with false. So basically this is the flag that we will be using to trigger on or off the snack bar. And I'm gonna create a new state called toast message set toast message. It's gonna be a string. Alright, I think that should do it. Now I think we are ready to implement our snack bar. So basically the reason I use this toast message is to show message on our snack bars. That's its only purpose, nothing fancy. So right after our style container over here, all the way to the very end and before this closing fragment, I'm going to bring a snack bar component from material UI. It's going to do a snack bar. It's going to be a self-closing tag. It's going to take quite a bit of props. So there is a property called open. So what does this mean is when will the snack bar be open, or when we should render the snack bar, and it depends upon open snack bar flag, which is false by default. There is a property called auto hide duration. So I'm gonna pass the 6000 over here. So this means 6000 millisecond. So once the snack bar is open, after 6 seconds, it will hide by itself. So in order to provide, I'm gonna have to provide an onClose function here. Equals to handle close. Since that function is not defined, it's gonna freak out, so I'm gonna create that function. Oops, let's see here. Const handle, not handle change, handle close equals to regular arrow function. So all this is gonna do is it's just gonna close the snack bar, meaning we're gonna turn off the flag for that open snack bar. It's gonna say set open snack bar, and we're gonna set it to false. Alright, now let's work on the other props. OnClose is done. Now there is a property called message. Basically it refers to what is the message or text that you want to render on that snack bar. For our case, it's going to be a toast message. And also one more property, there is a property called anchor origin. So this is really useful to make sure, like where does your snack bar render it in the UI. We want to make sure we want to render it in the bottom of the page centrally. That's what we're trying to do. You can pass a object in there and there is a property called vertical. Oops, vertical, if I can type it right. For the vertical property, we're going to do bottom, and for the horizontal property, we're going to do center. All this is doing is it puts the snack bar on the bottom centrally. And there is also a property called accent, where you can pass a bunch of icons or like any sort of HTML basically. But in this case, we're just gonna do a simple thing. What we're gonna be doing is just gonna create a accent over here equals to, inside the parentheses, I'm gonna add a fragment. Inside the fragment, I'm gonna use the icon button that I imported earlier. and I'm gonna wrap the close icon, and there is a property called font size you can pass to a material UI icons, and I'm just gonna say it as small. Alright, now all this action is going to do is every time we click this close icon, it should close the snack bar. So in order to close the snack bar, as we already know, we have the function over here, which is handle close, right? We can just hook this function with that one. I can add an on-click property here, and I'm just going to call handle close as soon as this action is clicked. Alright, now I think the only thing left to do is take care of this message right here, which is going to be the toast message, right? So I'm going to go here. If you remember, we only added a case for success and the user on this use effect hook. Now we're going to add a case for our is error, because if we have a like a state, whenever if there is error, then we will get the error from here. So we will just add one if statement here, is error. If there is error, then all we need to do is trigger that snack bar. Say set open snack bar to true, so that will open the snack bar, and set toast message to message. All right, let's refresh. Alright, now I think we should be good here, if I'm not wrong. Okay, let's try to log in with the email that we don't have. It's just a random password that I'm putting here. Let's bring this down. Let's submit. Now it says email does not exist. I mean, that is expected, right? Because we put the random email, and this is the message that we are getting on the service. Now let's look at the Foo's example. I'm going to use Foo's account, but I'm putting the wrong password for Foo. Let's see what it says. It says password does not match, because that is coming directly from our backend, and we're just rendering that message. If we click here, it should close the snack bar. Alright, that is pretty cool. Now I think we should be, yeah, let's do the same thing for our register as well. And I think once that is done, we're good. Register. Okay, what do I want to do? Did I import a snack bar? Yeah, I do have a snack bar. Okay, now I'm going to go to login. I'm going to copy a bunch of things from here. Open snack bar. Okay, I think didn't I not make a use of the reset? Okay, once I navigate here, oh, I forgot to make sure one thing here. I think I missed it. Did I miss it on register too? Submit data is done. Yeah, well, I need to call the reset function here. Dispatch. Once everything is done and once the user is navigated, I'm gonna have to reset the state so that all of our log, like is loading related state, and those are taken care of. And if I'm not wrong, well, I would need the same thing on our use effect on the register as well. Go to register, because otherwise it's going to create like various inconsistencies on the UI or on the Redux store as a whole. As soon as we have the success case or like any sort of things in the use effect, we want to reset our state. Right, now let's move on to this snack bar portion. I'm going to copy this state from here, go to right here. That is done. So what else do I need? I'll need a use effect. If there is an error, then I need to open the snack bar. Let's go right here. Go back here. Alright, we need handle close and action. We're going to use the similar things here as well. So let's go here all the way down. And I'm gonna copy this destructured thing all the way to the top, right there. All right, now for login, that is done. I'm gonna go all the way to the end, grab this snack bar, come back here. Before that closing fragment, I'm gonna put that in there. So now, if we have any issues on the registration, we should see that snack bar. So let's test it out. Let's put the random name in here. If I do that, oh, not for, let's use whose email, because if we use the same email, we don't allow to user to register for. All right, let's test it out. Let's submit. It says email already exists, so we can't register. So it is working as expected. All right, nice. So let's go to login. Let's log in for the final time, and I think we should be good on this video. 2, 1, 2, 3. Yep, everything is working as expected. Nice. Oh, by the way, this is from the earlier register error, so this didn't came here. Okay, I think this video, I thought this video would be shorter because I dealt with a bunch of CSS related items, but because there were quite a bit of things related to Redux, so I think that's why it ended up being too long. But I guess it provided you some sort of value. What we're going to be doing on the next video is we will be taking care of the to-dos related stuff, because right now we took care of login and registration. Now we should be good there. Now all we need to do is set up our dashboard so that it renders all of the to-dos, and also we also need to take care of adding all of those CRUD related functionalities on the UI, and that's what we will be tackling on the next episode. So if you guys enjoy the content on the channel, please give a thumbs up to the video. It massively helps me a lot. And please consider subscribing to the channel if you guys enjoy this kind of content, and if you guys want to see more of this. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Thanks.